What does it cost to remove a sitting U.S. congressman? Apparently, $32 billion. Last night, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky lost his primary election. And the way it happened should truly scare every American out there, regardless of the party, because this isn't really about the Republicans. This is money in politics once again shaping how Americans do business. And that definitely affects all of us. I'm Vernon with Daily Decoded. Let's get into it. So who is Thomas Massie, you ask? Now, before I get too deep into it, I'm going to be upfront with you. Thomas Massie is a Republican. And me, I definitely lean more progressive, independent. And so I disagree with Thomas Massie on like 90% of issues, probably 95 to 99% to be, if we're being honest. But I've learned that sometimes the most important political stories aren't really about the people that you like. They're about what's actually happening in our country. So again, who is Thomas Massie? He is a Republican congressman from Kentucky. He's a libertarian-leaning Republican, which means he is against everything. He's against foreign aid. He's against spending money for Medicare for all. He's against the social safety net. Thomas Massie is a die-hard, pull yourself up by your bootstraps type. And, well, he's not afraid of it or ashamed of it, to be honest with you. He believes in limited government, personal freedom, and he does not like being told what to do. Not by Democrats, and most certainly not by Donald Trump. He pushed with Ro Khanna for the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. And I know that is not a popular subject here on, well, you know where. He spoke out against the war in Iran. He voted against Trump's signature tax legislation, the big ugly bill, which gave billionaires tax breaks like they've never seen before. In a Republican Party where those things will most certainly get you canceled, Thomas Massie not only stood up, but he doubled down.
Do not let the Senate muck this bill up. And if you're a party to that in the Senate, you are part of this cover-up that we are trying to expose. I am sorry if one of your billionaire donors is going to get embarrassed because he went to Rape Island. That is what they have coming. In fact, they need to be on the other side of bars, a lot of them. Some of them will be embarrassed, but some of them need to go to prison, and the survivors know that. So how will we know if this bill has been successful? We will know when there are men, rich men, in handcuffs being perp-walked to the jail. And until then, this is still a cover-up.
Trump, we hate him for it. Thomas Massie has been the bane to Donald Trump's existence since he first got elected. Donald Trump has publicly called for him to be kicked out of the Republican Party entirely. He called him, quote, an obstruction and a fool. Let's just let that sink in. A sitting president calling someone of his own party a fool. Talk about decorum.
Thomas Massie's a terrible congressman. He's been a terrible congressman from day one. Dealing with him is just horrible. I don't think he's a Republican. I think he's actually a Democrat. He's not a libertarian. You know, sometimes they say he's really a Democrat. He votes against us all the time.
So what do you do when you're the most powerful man in the Republican Party and a congressman keeps defying you? Well, you go after him, of course. Now, Trump handpicked the challenger, a former Navy SEAL named Ed Gowering. Behind him early. On the surface, this is just politics as usual, right? Incumbents get challenged all the time. It's nothing new. Think AOC when she went after Joe Crowley. She beat him in a shocking defeat. So this is not a new thing where an incumbent is taken on by someone who thinks that they can do a better job. But this is a little bit deeper than surface level politics. The race became the most expensive House primary in American history, with overall spending hitting like $32 million. Now let that sink in. Just think about that. A congressional election costing $32 million. Thomas Massie himself said that he had never spent more than maybe $1 million on his campaign. This is 32x, solely because certain people wanted him gone. This is just one congressional district in Kentucky, not a Senate seat, not a governor's race, a House district for $32 million, according to The Intercept. Now, where did all that money come from? That's the question that I want to ask in this video today. Two places: Trump's political machine, and yeah, you guessed it, AIPAC. Now, here's the point I really need you to understand, because it's much bigger than Massie. AIPAC stands for, if you don't know, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. It is one of the most powerful lobbying organizations in the country, and it has a super PAC. Now, that's a political action committee called the United Democracy Project. Super PACs can raise and spend godly sums of money, right? Whereas the normal individual is capped, I believe it's at $2,500 per political donation to a candidate. A super PAC can literally raise as much as they want and spend as much as they want. This is the undue influence of money in our political system. The only thing that a super PAC can't do is directly coordinate with the campaign. So think, I can't call from the super PAC and say, hey, I got this money for you, but I need you to do X, Y, and Z. No. That's not how it works. AIPAC and two other groups backed by pro-Israel donors poured more than $15.8 million into this race, either opposing Massie or supporting his opponent through ads, typically billboards, leaflets, and most importantly, TV. And some social media, I'm sure, but we'll get into that. And you're probably asking yourself, why did they target Massie? I mean, why would someone want to spend $16 million going after one guy in a district in Kentucky? Well, I'll tell you why. A spokesperson for AIPAC said, Thomas Massie is the most anti-Israel Republican in the House. Now, let that sink in. He's the most anti-Israel Republican in the House of Representatives. This is America. Now, Thomas Massie pushed back, on that framing. He said, I have never voted for foreign aid to Egypt, Syria, Israel, or Ukraine, because that is his stance. He is, if nothing else, consistent. Thomas Massie is a diehard anti-government intervention in foreign affairs. He wants us to focus on America and America only. And you can respect that, because the reality is we should focus. My mother used to say this all the time. You can't clean up anybody else's house if your house is dirty. That didn't matter to the groups writing those checks, though. No. They spent and spent and spent, and they smeared and smeared and smeared, because ultimately the one goal they had, pro-Israel money. Now, here's what I want you to think about. When an outside organization can drop $16 million into a small congressional district to remove one person that they don't like, what does that mean for everyday Americans like me and you? What does it mean for candidates who can't raise the kind of money that a super PAC can put together? What does it mean for the grassroots organizations that are truly trying to do the work to stand up to power and money and foreign entities? What does it mean for them when we have other people messing in our affairs? Something to think about. What does it mean for voters in a district whose decision and choice has been essentially shaped by donors who don't even live in the district? Massie himself said it best in his concession speech last night. For 14 years, those SOBs in Washington tried to buy my vote. They couldn't buy it. Why did the vote get so expensive? because they decided to buy my seat. That quote right there is the whole video. They couldn't beat him fair and square. They couldn't shake him when they threatened him. So they bought the seat he was sitting in. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is this machine that I spoke of earlier? Well, we can't ignore the Trump role in all of this. This wasn't just about Israel policy, even though it's important, because anybody who's backed by AIPAC, it's a known thing that if AIPAC backs you, you have to make a pledge to vote with Israel 100% of the time. There is no deviation. There is no going against and biting the hand that feeds you. If we give you this money, you are to vote with us. But Trump, we gotta be fair here. Trump also played a huge role in all of this. You see, Massie's defeat is another sign that Republicans in Congress have vanishing little leeway to cross Trump. He is bent on retribution and persuaded that his voters are somehow his to own and control. He genuinely believes and acts as a dictator. And this is part of the reason why he always praises them in every chance he gets.
He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, no, other than day one. There's a man, Viktor Orban. Did anyone ever hear of him? He's probably like one of the strongest leaders anywhere in the world. And it's like central casting. There's nobody in Hollywood that can play the role of President Xi. The look, the strength, the voice. It's good to have a good relationship with Putin and Xi and all these people that have lots of nuclear weapons. And Kim Jong-un I had a good relationship with. He's a tough, smart guy. Vladimir Putin. Has anybody ever heard of Vladimir Putin? Of Russia, says that Biden's, and this is a quote, politically motivated persecution of his political rival is very good for Russia because it shows the rottenness of the American political system, which cannot pretend to teach others about democracy.
He persuades his voters to defeat his adversaries again and again. Think about what that means for how our government actually functions. If every Republican in Congress knows that one vote against the president, one moment of independence could mean $30 million shows up in your district overnight to end your career, do you think they're going to vote their conscience or safety to keep their career? A Kentucky lawmaker and Massie supporter named Steve Don said it directly. There's going to be a chilling effect as a result of this race. That effect is real. And it doesn't just affect Republicans. When one party has no internal checks, no members willing to push back, it affects us all. And don't get it twisted. It's not just the Republicans that are hamstrung and manhandled by the Israeli machine. Democrats are just as guilty. Think about the Cori Bush race. Think about Nina Turner. Think about Thomas Bowman. All pushed out because they dared go against the status quo. Israel. Huge amounts of money poured into their congressional districts, and they were defeated not by someone with better values or better ideas or someone who stood for the people more, but by money. Moneyed interests who have a overlord called Israel. But here's something you've got to take into consideration. The same machine that took out Thomas Massie is not going to stop there. It's the same machinery that shapes the entire political landscape that we operate in. Super PACs don't just target Republicans. The United Democracy Project has also spent heavily in Democratic primaries. As I mentioned before, Democrats, many of whom are black, who have questioned U.S. foreign policy, we're not exempt from this same thing happening. And the broader pattern where money decides who even gets to the ballot hits communities like ours the hardest. When outside money floods a district, it drowns out local organizing, it drowns out grassroots voices, it drowns out the kind of power that communities have historically had to build the hard way, door by door, precinct by precinct. A democracy where the ballot is pre-decided by the highest bidder is not a democracy that works for us. Full stop. Now, Thomas Massie is gone. Down goes Massie. Ed Gallerin will almost certainly win in November in a very deep red district. And there are now even fewer voices in Congress willing to cross either Trump or AIPAC. Massie left the stage last night teasing a 2028 run. Whether he comes back or not isn't really the point. I mean, let's be honest. The point is that $32 million just decided a congressional seat. And unless we stay informed, unless we stay engaged and keep demanding reform to how money works in our elections, this is just gonna keep happening. This is what we do here on Daily Decoded. We break it down so it makes sense. If this video helped you see this story differently, share it with somebody. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what y'all think about the super PAC angle, especially. Do you think that money should have a say in our political system? Do you think that maybe we should have publicly funded elections and that there should be caps on how much money can be spent? I really want to know. It's a very sad day in politics. It's a sad day in America. But hey, always remember, stay informed, stay dangerous, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.